Good people, what is going on? Another episode of the Uncle Podcast. I'm your host, Desmond. Thank you for tuning in. Appreciate it. Have a couple things we want to talk about. We'll definitely talk about the Detroit Lions in another video. Just crushed with them losing, but is what it is. We'll talk about that um, later on today. But heard so two things I want to talk about. Number one is what I think the Raiders should do when it comes to just first couple steps of free agency as well as the draft. And also topic I want to talk about is there's been some talk about Shedeur Sanders is one of the top two quarterbacks in this upcoming draft. And uh, Deion, which obviously is his father, has mentioned that he will lobby in the background as far as teams that he does or doesn't want Shedeur to go to. And we want to talk about that. So first and foremost, I don't think there's anything wrong with what Dion mentioned because when it comes to quarterbacks, it matters so much of where you go, the type of organization you go to, the type of just culture that they have, the type of leadership, the type of the front office that you have. I mean, I've mentioned it on the this channel multiple times of there's some like the Cowboys are one. You just can't overcome bad ownership. And Jerry's a terrific owner as far as building a brand, but he is an awful owner when it comes to kind of having a culture of winning and focusing that the main thing is the main thing. I've mentioned Chicago Bears. I think they've done a pretty poor job front office wise. Think they've done actually a pretty good job as far as picking players, but they still don't have the culture, the correct front office. You kept Eberflus even though you really didn't trust him, and then you fired him, but now you're keeping the GM, and now you have this team president who's also involved. They're, each of them are kind of skewing the team towards specific candidates, and it's chaotic. The Raiders are one as well. I think they are trying to do the right things, but it just does not seem to be working for them. So I do understand where Dion is coming from because you can't overcome that. I have also mentioned too, I think there you have to be just a generational quarterback to be able to overcome those types of things. And for as good of a prospect as I think Shedeur is, I don't think he's a generational prospect, a generational quarterback. I think he's terrific. I think what he did with Colorado, with the limited protection that he had offensively, I think he performed really well. So I think if you could build something around him, as far as protecting him, getting him in O-line, getting him some weapons, offense, running backs, receivers, etc. I think he could be a pretty darn good pro. So I do understand that aspect of it as far as hey, we want to try to make sure he's going to a good situation. But if I were the Cleveland Browns or the Tennessee Titans and I had plans on drafting Shedeur Sanders, I don't care what Dion says. I'm drafting Shedeur because number one, you just can't pass up an opportunity like that to get a top quarterback, number one, number two pick. I mean, Baker Mayfield is what in year 7, something like that. I can't remember the year he was drafted, but that's the last time Cleveland had a number one pick. I think they had Miles Garrett. No, I'm sorry. So they had Baker was number one, and I think was it the next year that they had Miles Garrett. But anyway, they haven't had a lot of opportunities to have a number one, number two pick. And now that you have it, and you also need a quarterback, you can't pass up this opportunity because you may not get another number one pick for another 5-6 years, which means you may not be able to get a quarterback that you need for the next 5-6 years. Same with the Tennessee Titans. I mean, I'm trying to remember the last. I mean, they've been pretty bad, but you just cannot pass up an opportunity. I mean, if the Tennessee Titans decide to roll out Will Levis for this next season, that would be pretty insane. But the point is you just can't pass up that opportunity. And I would just kind of play hardball with it. Like, okay, we're going to draft him. What are your options going to be? once you declare for the draft, you can't go back to college. So it's not as if Shedeur could go back and say, "Well, I'm going to play another year at Colorado." Are you going to go to the UFL or the whatever the spring league is? Like, is that going to be your option? You're going to leave. First round picks are usually in the $32 million range as far as their total salary. Like, you got to walk away from that. As soon as you put pen to paper, you're looking at, I think it's anywhere from 12 to $20 million. So and I get it. He's making money as far as with NIL, and he's got different endorsements. He's on a couple commercials. So he definitely has money coming in. He's not the typical, from 10 years ago, the broke college kid who's looking to get paid. He's made seemingly at least a couple $1 million. So he's not hurting by any stretch of the imagination, but $20 million is $20 million, and you just get that with the you sign your name to paper, and in 2 weeks you're going to have that hit your bank account. So is that something that Shedeur would walk away from? I mean, I would just play the waiting game. Like, okay, like if you want to, you don't want to report to rookie mini camps, you don't want to to come to OTAs. It's like, I would do it tactfully, but would just say, like, listen, Shedeur, the sooner you get here to camp, the sooner you can start learning the offense, and the sooner you're going to be terrific. I'd say look at Jaden Daniels. He just won 2 playoff games. The Commanders was an awful franchise before he got there. Look what he was able to do as a rookie. You can do the same thing, but you've got to show up. You've got to come and learn what we want to do. We'd love to have your input on things. Not saying that we're going to run what you ask for, but would love your input to try to figure out what works well for you. Bring your dad in. He obviously had some say as far as like the offense and what they ran at Colorado that Shedeur was successful with. All right, great. What kind of concepts do you like? We can get that, some of that put into the offense and the playbook. The history may not be great, but we think the future can be with you, and it starts with you, and we're going to build around you, and so on and so forth. That would be the way that I would approach it. But by no means am I not going to draft Shedeur. If indeed he was my top guy on my board, I'm not skipping out on drafting him to go draft someone else just because potentially Deion said, well, I don't want him to play for Tennessee or Cleveland, whatever the case may be. So that would be my thought process on it, and that's what I would do. So we'll see what happens. I think he probably still does get drafted 1 or 2, but we shall see. Only time will tell. The Raiders. So with the Detroit Lions losing, there's been talk that Ben Johnson may take the Raiders job. I think he's gonna have not sure about pick of the litter, but I think he's definitely gonna have some options when it comes to what job he takes as far as going from OC with the Lions to a head coach. But wanted to focus in on the Raiders because what I think they should do when it comes to if you don't have a quarterback, everything is pretty much a non-starter. I saw people talking about potentially, Ben Johnson going to the Raiders and then trading for Hendon Hooker to come with him. I mean, sure, but I don't really think there's. Excuse me. Hendon Hooker's not gonna is not gonna turn around your franchise. Maybe he's a sleeper that we all are just unaware of, but sure, we can have Hendon Hooker as a contingency plan. But what I would do if I were the Raiders, I think so. Here would be my 3 options as far as quarterbacks go in the free agency market. And maybe I'll put these in no particular order. Well, first and foremost, I would try to go get Sam Darnold. I would, and I think the Vikings were probably going to franchise him because just letting him walk for nothing would be kind of crazy, even though you do have JJ McCarthy. That would be my first option. I would give it a shot. He's probably going to be in the $40 million range, something like that. The Raiders have a ton of cap space, so that isn't going to be that much of an issue for them. Max Crosby is signed on a deal. He doesn't have one coming up. And I think they have like a tackle who's making a decent amount of money. But other than that, I mean, they don't have any type of constraints. So it would be pretty easy to sign Sam Darnold. The other option I think they should go for would be Justin Fields. One thing I feel pretty confident about is Pittsburgh is not going to franchise him. I think if anything, they would try to re-sign him. But I, I mean, actually, is Justin Fields still under contract? Because I thought he was on a 1-year deal, but he may not be. Um, so I know Russell Wilson is signed for 2024. So it looks like very confused. This website is not great. Justin. But Justin Fields would be another option, assuming he is going to be a free agent. Man, Spot Rack seems to be the really good. So he is a free agent. Contract details. So yes, Justin Fields is a free agent. So Justin Fields would be another option. Relatively younger guy. As far as quarterbacks go, he's not going to break the bank, so you would be able to get build some more pieces around him. And I think Justin Fields' ceiling is pretty high. The floor can be a bit low as far as his decision making, coaching, things like that. But that's also the benefit. Assuming you get Ben Johnson as a head coach, that's the benefit of having him as your head coach and offensive coordinator is he can help boost Justin Fields as far as his production, what he can do. So ideally, having that combo could definitely work. And then the last option would be if the Falcons end up cutting Kirk Cousins, which sounds like it's possible, may happen, may not. So it sounds like that is a possibility, but that would be something that I would keep an eye on if I were, the Raiders front office. And then as far as draft picks, I would go just best player available. They draft number 6, if I'm not mistaken. NFL draft order. They are indeed number 6. So I would think about Mason Graham would be one that I would definitely think about. Not sure. I mean, it's very possible he would go before 6. I mean, he's a terrific player, but Tennessee Titans and the Cleveland Browns are both first, 1 and 2. I would assume quarterbacks both go there. Pick number 3, the Giants. Let's say, for sake of argument, Travis Hunter goes there. Where does New England go? Do they go tackle? Do they go wide receiver? And then you've got Jacksonville. So I think Mason Graham very well may be there. And then also would think about the defensive end from Penn State. Yeah, Abdul Carter. So that would be my thought. If you could get Mason Graham, get him paired with Max Crosby, I think you've got enough to be dangerous. And then, like I said, one of those quarterbacks, whether it's Sam Darnold, whether it's potentially Kirk Cousins or Justin Fields, I like Justin Fields with the upside and just the scramble ability. So that would be my thoughts on it. Who knows what will happen? We'll see. But let me know your thoughts. We'll greatly appreciate it. And while you are here, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button. I would greatly appreciate it. That's it for me. Peace.